Today we're going to talk about color correcting and color grading. I'm not going to go into too many specifics here. I'm going to be using Final Cut Pro, but you guys can use any software to do this. Most software will either have more color correction options than I do in Final Cut or less. So it just kind of depends. But what is color correcting? I'm going to show you guys what it is and share 3 examples of when I've actually used this feature in projects that I've created. So color correction is just using saturation methods or exposure, sometimes color, to modify clips to either fix them if we've recorded them incorrectly, or to make them look more like real life, or we want to make multiple clips that might look slightly different, all look cohesive and connected, like it's all telling the same story. Okay, so those are the main reasons why we would use color correction. Color grading is similar and there's kind of some overlapping. I'm not going to go into too many details on that. But the main thing with color grading is using color to actually convey a theme or a feeling. Right now, if you pause this video and Google movie color palettes, you'll see that different movies have different color palettes depending on what theme they want to convey. What are they trying to express? What are they trying to get their audience to feel? Okay. And we'll look at kind of both of these. I'm probably just going to use the term color correction throughout this video, but they're used because they are kind of used interchangeably a little bit. Let's just dive right in here. My first clip is a clip of a giant school of fish. I'm in the US Virgin Islands in the Caribbean here. Wish I was there now. And I'm diving down in to this big school of fish right here to reveal this even bigger fish right here with my GoPro. It's kind of an older GoPro. Doesn't necessarily record in the greatest way. Notice over here my color correction on the red. Hey guys, editor James Nielsen here. I noticed a slight issue with how Zoom was recording this footage here. I just wanted to let you guys know what this actually looked like in Final Cut, because you guys can't quite see it in the full video. So kind of inception here, recording the video here. This is Final Cut. This is a cat. Here, just so you guys are aware, we have 3 options. We have color, and then what you can't see right here is saturation and exposure, okay? And so if we have these and we click on them, all right, come on, phone, there we go. We can see that we have saturation here and exposure here, okay? All right, I think that explains it. Let's continue on. Okay, so we have these 4 little guys right here. Each one indicates different types of colors. So we have highlights. So those are the brighter colors, like these little highlights right here, okay? Midtones, shadows are obviously the shadows. And then master is every color, okay, the whole thing. And so we can change the whole thing a color if we want. If you guys have seen that new Netflix show called, what is it called? Miss Ratched. They do that with red and green, okay? Here you might notice, wait, I can see that he put a ton of red into the highlights, yet we don't see much red. In fact, it's quite... One more thing, the way that Zoom plays video playback of other videos is not very good. So I'm gonna insert above this video in the clip the actual footage, the actual image occasionally, just to kind of help you guys see what it would actually look like versus just seeing it through Zoom, which shows it with a lot of mixing frames, and so it looks kind of bad, just so you guys are aware. Anyways, let's keep going, right? It's quite blue, right? The reason for this is that for whatever reason, due to science, red doesn't show up well underwater. It's kind of like filtered out, I guess, because of blue or something. Anyway, and so if you notice, if I take down the red, look at that. Okay, now our clip is like greenish, right? It looks almost kind of murky, and it doesn't really look like real life, but this is actually like what it looks like underwater. And so this is an interesting instance where we actually want to modify it to look prettier than it actually is in real life, partly because we are used to seeing red. We expect to see red. You know, if I were to take this rock right here that has some red in it, or this lobster thing that has some red in it, and take it out of the ocean, it would look more red. But it does show up a little bit red, okay? So you can kind of see a little. And so on this clip right here, I didn't actually do as much red as I did over here on this clip, because we already had some red in there. And if I would have done it more, it would actually start to turn it pinkish, and we don't want that. But you want to make sure that they look like they belong together. Like this clip should go into that clip really nicely, and it looks like it's the same color, right? Okay, so this is a project that I did for the Writing Center over the summer. It's basically it's a 1-minute advert to remind students that we are still doing Writing Center tutorial appointments online. I'll play the first few seconds here just so you guys get a sense of what the video feels like. The SSH Writing Center is available to students, staff, and faculty at Nazarbayev University. Right now, we're offering individual writing appointments and online writing workshops. So as you guys can see, it's very basic. It's kind of lighthearted, easy, sort of happy music. I'm doing a voiceover, and then we have just like quick screenshots here. As you can see, we've got some recorded footage over here that we're going to get into in just a second. Online workshops are free and cover a range of writing goals, from paraphrasing and grammar to presentation skills and writing your professional CV. During an individual writing appointment online, our tutors give you feedback. So I wanted to show a couple of tutors here just to kind of put a face to this and get certain students that maybe like these instructors in. So we've got Masha here, we've got Brandon here, we've got Thea, and then we have Shane as well. Okay. Now notice that each of these clips I've edited with color correction to have a certain style, certain look. What does that look? There's not a whole lot of contrast, right? What I've really done is I've muted a lot of the brighter tones, and so it doesn't show as much contrast. We still have some deep, dark colors here, but we don't have as many bright colors. The reason why I did this actually is because I actually shot this footage in the wrong setting. So I'm going to take off the color correction here, and you guys are going to see what it looks like raw. So this is what I shot in at raw, because actually I shot it in HDR 4K on accident, and so it actually just blew up. This is called blowing out right here, where we blow out certain color that's well, basically everything, and so the only thing that is there is white. Luckily it's not blown out too much to where with our color correction we can mute those tones and we can still see all of the details that we need to see in the clip. But I actually had to mute it a little bit just so that it wasn't so bright. And what I did with the saturation exposure, which I didn't really talk about too much in the last clip, with the exposure here, I have in Final Cut Pro the option to do shadows, midtones, and highlights, and obviously master as well. And so I have made the darks darker, okay? The darker you go down, right, the darker it gets. Like we'd like to have really strong colors like that. I didn't want it to be completely without contrast. And so it was a bit of a personal choice there. With the exposure, I didn't change it too much, but because I changed the dark and I put those way down, that's also actually changing the exposure as well. It's just not directly, it's just making the darks darker. Saturation, I didn't change at all. And with the actual colors here, so I did add a little bit of color into the highlights just so that the white wasn't so piercingly white. And so we had a little bit of warmth. As you can get a sense with this video, it's kind of a happy, lighthearted summer vibe, right? And I wanted to make it quick, just 1 minute, happy music, very short. And so I wanted kind of this warm feel, but I still like to add a little bit of blue into blacks. It's a personal choice. I like a little bit of blue into the darker color, just to kind of make it look a little bit more interesting. And so then I just had to make sure to do that with all of the clips, and that with the clips that weren't as blown out, I didn't have to worry as much. Like with, I think the Thea clips here, I didn't, this clip wasn't really blown out. And so then I had to modify it still to make it look similar to the others though, okay? Let's jump on to the third example. Okay, here's our third example, guys. You hopefully remember this video. This is our camera shots video that me and Brandon put together. And here I'm going to show you guys an example of the other reason why I do color correction, which is just to make it look a little bit better for minor adjustments. So if you look at the way that I've moved these here, and these here, you can see that most of my choices are pretty minimal. Like the exposure one is definitely the biggest, -30 there. But other than that, I haven't changed it much. And if I take it off, you can see that that the main thing is the brightness. And again, for me personally, I don't like it when something is blown out like that. Um, Now, this was recorded on Zoom. We weren't trying to be any kind of like Hollywood style here. When we record on Zoom like this, it's just because I would love to spend 40 hours creating like a really good video on color correction. But I also have a million other things to do, right? And so we're just recording on Zoom. In this instance, like I said, it was a little bit blown out. Maybe if it was a little bit darker, we could have added a little bit more color. Oftentimes, mine is a little bit darker here, so I might add a little bit more. I might add a little bit more light in mine. I'll leave you guys with this last image of Brandon looking at you in intensity. This is the look he's going to have if you don't color correct your footage. Amateurs tend to overdo it. You can go back like I did and fix mistakes through color correction, like I did with the Summer Writing Center program video. But I would recommend, as much as you can, if you're able to see the mistakes soon enough, to reshoot the footage and get the footage done correctly, because footage shot naturally right the first time will look a lot better. In most instances, most of you guys are going to use these color correction techniques very minimally. Anyways, I hope this was helpful, guys, and we'll see y'all again soon. This information will work with both your digital narrative, your PSA, and your final vlog.
Do your work.